Hey guys, looking at this preterism thing again. To after the last little valley of videos, getting different messages and stuff like that, and just to clarify some points. Um, it does seem that a lot of people kind of have their own version of preterism. Um, I can't, you know what I mean? I can't sit here and try to post arguments against everyone's in particular version of preterism. Um, so that's one thing I will say. I can't. It's just it would go on and on and on. Um, Other than that, and moving along into more straightforward things, the take a look at 2 Peter 3:12 and 1 Thessalonians 4:16. Now, I'll tell you on the Thessalonians thing, I don't have it was not a passage like I pushed really hard at any time, but I got to looking at it today, and there are some issues with it, in my opinion, if you're going to take a preterist understanding of it. But anyway, let's start with 2 Peter. I just want to point out some points. Um, Let me skip down to it to where it becomes relevant. 7. But by the same word, the heavens and earths that now exist are stored up for fire, being kept until the day of judgment and destruction of the ungodly. But do not overlook this one fact, beloved, that with the Lord 1 day is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is 1 day. The Lord is not slow to fulfill his promise, but as some count slowness, but is patient towards you, not wishing that any should perish, but that you should all reach repentance. But the day of the Lord will come like a thief, that when the heavens will pass away with a roar, and the heavenly bodies will be burned up and dissolved, and the earth and the works that are done with it will be exposed. Since all of these things are thus to be dissolved, what sort of people ought you to be in lives of holiness and godliness, waiting for and hastening to the coming day of God, because of which the heavens will be set on fire and dissolved, and the heavenly bodies, the heavenly bodies will melt away as they burn. But according to the promise, we are waiting for a new heavens and a new earth, and righteousness dwells. Now, what's interesting about it, uh, some passages in chapter 10 will have, I think it's, yeah, the elements will be destroyed by fire, and the earth and everything will be laid bare. And I assume that's probably more correct, that the elements, because of what's contained within the word, and one of the words there is constituent. And anyone that's messed with natural medicines knows exactly what a constituent is. And a constituent is the basic parts of, and a chemistry understanding of whatever something is. It's the basic parts of something. But verse 12 is the other one I wanted to focus on, taking a look at it. When you look at these words here, it's saying something very definite and very physical. It says, looking for the hastening and coming of the day of God, because of which the heavens will be destroyed. Okay, 3089. To dissolve by burning, and the elements, the stoichia. And that is it is one of the most basic fundamental words that you can put on that. And it comes across as a heavenly body or an element. But when you look at how it's used for things like elementary principles, elemental things, elemental knowledge, sometimes just as principles or the rudiments. Well, in context, Peter is clearly talking of physical, okay, burning of the elements, and the word there, um, means to set fire to. So he's going to set fire or burn the literal constituents will melt. And the word means melt within, and then it says with intense heat. So when you look at just the breakdown of these words, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how you assign a spiritual implication to that, because spiritual things I don't think would have constituents unless you are of that Platonic school of Aristotle, maybe, and you believe that matter is made of stuff and God is made of stuff. So I don't know on that one, but that word kasu means, and basically comes across as an intense heat, from the root of kasos, burning heat or fever, to burn with great heat, and it's translated twice in the NASB as intense heat. So I don't see, at least in 2 Peter, really where you have much room. This to me is talking about as physical gets. Now, if we go to 1 Thessalonians 4:16, the only things I want to point out about that is this whole caught up in the sky thing, taking just a look at the language a little bit. Then together with them we are still alive and remain on the earth, will be caught up in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, then we will be with the Lord forever. Now I started looking at the arguments with this in the notes anyway. And the problem we have is that the word for air literally means it's atmosphere. It's a normal word. It's not the word for heaven, which I'll go into in a moment here. And it uses the word for heaven that in the passage before it in 4:16, it's where Jesus comes from. And it uses the word to go down. So he comes down from heaven, Oranau. I think it's pronounced, some people pronounce that Orunus, or Uranus. And in the next passage you see, you're caught up in the air or atmosphere. If we take a look at the Vine's dictionary on that word, ears, how it's pronounced, air signifies the atmosphere, certainly in 5 of the 7 occurrences: Acts 22, 1 Corinthians 9:14, Revelations 9:16. And certainly, almost certainly, in the other 2, Ephesians 2:2 and 1 Thessalonians. The other word, that Uranus word, denotes the heavens. The RV renders it heaven, and the KJV renders it air in Matthew 8:20, in the phrase, the fowls of heaven, the birds of the air. The KJV has air, sky, in Matthew 16:2-3. Luke 12:56, in all the instances of heaven, the word probably derived from the root meaning to cover or encompass, see heaven or sky. So Paul is using the word, and like I said, I've never been overly in arguments about 1 Thessalonians, but he's using the correct word to denote the atmosphere and not the heaven. But there's something else interesting that goes on. Shall descend from heaven. Okay, and this is the Vincent's word studies in the New Testament. And I'm not aware of any Hebrew versions or Greek Aramaic versions of this, because it probably was written to Gentiles, so sitting in Greek may be better. But it says, shall descend from heaven, used nowhere else of Christ's second coming. Frequently in the fourth gospel of Christ's descent to earth as a man. In Ephesians 9, of his descent by the Spirit in order to endow the church. So that to descend from heaven term, or to come down, is actually used in John to make when Jesus becomes a man. So it's literal there apparently in John's literature, and it also shows up in Ephesians as the Spirit coming down to the church. So it actually does come from heaven to some other place. Then we go on, and he says, together with them, okay, at the same time referring to the living. We that are alive shall be simultaneously, or one and all, be caught up. And that is uin autus, along with them, i.e. the dead. Thus, the Aya is to be consistent with shall be caught up. The AV and the REV are inaccurate. These are important words as related to the disquietude of the Thessalonians. Shall be caught up by a swift, restless divine energy, compared to 2 Corinthians 2:4 and Acts 39. In the air, rendered into the air and consistent with shall be caught up. Ear, the atmosphere with the clouds, as distinguished from the ear, the pure ether, which does not occur in the New Testament. And so you're not, what the text is literally saying, as far as I can put it together, is he's using the same language or same word you find in John when he says Jesus is coming down out of the, what is that freaking word called? Usia or Neu. And I've heard some people pronounce it uranaz. So he comes down from heaven, like you see in the book of John when he becomes a man and takes on flesh. And you see it in Ephesians, in the Spirit in the church. And then he will raise up, literally, raise up the chief or the first. And then you get into verse 17. You will be caught up in the ear, okay? And it says you will remain together. And that's literally the term for atmosphere. So it does seem to be the wrong term. He should have used the Irenaeus term or Uranus term if they were actually caught into heaven. But he's actually saying he's snatching them up physically into the sky. That's what the arpagomitha word means, to seize or catch up or to snatch away. And I'm not aware of any language that we can use in the Old Testament references that says that someone's soul was snatched or caught up. And I'm not even familiar with it being in the New Testament. I could be wrong on that, but it seems like a very physical event that Paul is describing in Thessalonians. And the mere fact he uses the word for air or atmosphere, and the snatching, I mean, this all does seem to fit together in Greek. It seems to me he would have used the word for heaven if he wanted to say they were taken up into heaven. So that's that one. God bless.